Okay, let's dive in. Welcome back to the deep dive, where we crack open these incredibly rich texts and pull out the most surprising and really the most practical insights for you. Today we're looking at a document that feels less like a text and more like I don't know, a spiritual treasure map.
That's a great way to put it.
It's guiding us toward this subtle wisdom that has, well, frankly, been lost or just sort of abandoned over time.
It has, and that's really the focus here. We're exploring a text that is all about reviving practices, daily things, social habits, spiritual rituals that were absolutely central to the life of the Prophet Muhammad.
And the goal isn't just academic, right? This isn't just history.
Not at all. The source frames it as a kind of urgent mission. It's about extracting the practical wisdom and the spiritual significance of what it calls abandoned practices.
I love that phrase, abandoned practices. It makes it sound like they're not gone for good, just forgotten.
Exactly. Waiting to be picked up again.
So for you, the listener, the mission of this deep dive is what exactly?
The mission is to connect these really specific, detailed actions back to a central purpose. For believers, the whole philosophy is that following these examples, these super detailed rules of conduct, is what they call the pole of happiness.
The pole of happiness.
Yes, and the definitive path to salvation. So we're looking for the why behind all the little details, how these small, consistent acts shape an entire spiritual life.
And before we get into the really specific stuff, and I'm not kidding, why you might need to push someone away during prayer or why walking barefoot in a graveyard is a thing, we have to set the foundation.
We do.
And that's this core concept, the Sunnah. It's a word people hear a lot, but our sources are almost legally precise about what it actually means.
And that precision is vital because it dictates the whole level of commitment. Fundamentally, Sunnah just means a method or an example.
A blueprint.
It's the blueprint. But who is defining that blueprint?
Right.
Well, that matters a great deal.
Okay, so let's start with the widest possible lens. What's the general definition?
Generally, Sunnah covers, everything narrated about the Prophet Muhammad. That's his sayings, his actions, and even his unspoken approvals.
So if he said it, did it, or saw someone else do it and didn't object.
It's part of that comprehensive example.
That's the totality of his recorded life. But then the Hadith scholars, the ones who are, meticulously collecting all this, they took it a step further.
They did. They expanded it. For them, it wasn't just about his words and deeds. The Sunnah also included his physical features, his character, his behavior, even the way he looked.
Wow.
It was an effort to capture a complete, holistic person, to make the example truly personal.
That distinction, including his physical appearance, is really important. It suggests that even just his demeanor is part of the model.
Right.
And then, okay, we have the jurists, the legal scholars. Their definition seems much more focused on practical obligation.
Precisely. The jurists boil it down for law and practice. For them, a sunnah is a recommended act. And this definition is critical because it sets a boundary. The person who does the act is praised. They're rewarded. But, and this is the key, the one who doesn't do it isn't condemned.
So it's highly encouraged, but not a sin if you miss it.
Exactly. It avoids making these practices into a heavy, crushing burden.
Okay, so that whole spectrum of meaning, from the entire biography down to a simple recommended act, it really shows how central the idea is. And the motivation for embracing all of it, whether it's mandatory or just recommended, it's all rooted in this idea of obedience.
That is the absolute cornerstone. The document couldn't be clearer. Obedience to the messenger is the pole of happiness. It's the only path. The belief is that human fulfillment, ultimate success, it's all tied to following this example.
And the source material really doesn't pull any punches about the stakes involved. It brings in a pretty powerful message from the Quran to make the point.
It does. It uses verses from the chapter An-Nisa to frame it as a kind of existential choice. On one side, you have obedience, which leads to entering gardens where rivers flow, what it calls the magnificent triumph.
The ultimate success story.
Yes, but on the other side,
the consequence of turning away.
Disobedience.
Othering.
Transgressing those boundaries. And that leads directly to the fire, to an eternal degrading torment. So this framing, it elevates following the Sunnah way beyond just being a good person. It's presented as the mandate for a successful outcome, both here and in the hereafter.
Which brings us to this inevitable point of tension, right? The danger of innovation, of making things up, the concept of bid'ah. If the path is so strictly defined by the example, then creating your own path is seen as, disastrous.
This is a huge theme in the material, and it's the whole motivation for reviving abandoned practices in the first place. The prophet knew that future generations would diverge.
He warned about it.
He did. He said those who live after him will see many differences, and the only instruction was to cling firmly to the established sunnah.
And the warning against creating new, unverified practices it's incredibly sharp.
It is. The core warning is just so plain. Every new matter is an innovation, and every innovation is misleading. This isn't just, theological nitpicking. It's a structural warning that introducing new things pollutes the only defined path to salvation.
And what's so fascinating to me, and it kind of resonates with modern ideas of, cultural preservation, is this zero-sum relationship between innovation and abandonment.
Ah, yes. The quote from Ibn Abbas.
Tell us about that. It's chilling.
He observed that each year the people make up an innovation and abandon a sunnah till innovations live and sunnah die.
Wow. So it's not just that things get forgotten. It's that the act of creating new things directly causes the death of the authentic ones.
Exactly. It's an active displacement. Every new religious custom that a community invents pushes out an established prophetic one, and the source uses this as a rallying cry. We have to actively revive the old to stop the new from taking over.
And to really get a sense of how seriously this was taken, the material gives these incredible historical anecdotes, stories that show how these, towering figures in the tradition prioritize the example over even their own good intentions.
These stories are essential for getting into the right mindset. Take Imam Malik, one of the great jurists. A man comes to him getting ready for the Hajj pilgrimage. He asks where he should get into the sacred state of Ihram. Malik tells him the Miqat, the specific place where the Prophet himself started.
But the man, like a lot of people, wanted to do more, right? He wanted to be extra pious, start earlier, maybe get more reward.
Exactly. He asks, what if I start from a farther place? A very sincere attempt to improve on the ritual. But Imam Malik's reaction was extreme.
What did he say?
He said, I believe you should not. The man pushes back, asking why doing more is a bad thing. And Malik gives this stunning answer. He says, I'm afraid you might fall into a fitna, a trial, an affliction.
A trial for being more pious. How does that work?
For Malik, it wasn't about the intention. It was about the act itself, opposing the specific prophetic command. He felt that deliberately changing the prophet's method, even with the best motives, was a violation. He even quoted the Quran. Those who oppose the messenger's command should beware, lest some fitna befall them.
That's a huge mental shift, the idea that the method is more important than your personal effort.
And this wasn't just theoretical. Look at Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal.
Okay.
His dedication was legendary. He famously said, I have never written a hadith without applying it. And the source gives this wonderful, very relatable example. He read a narration that the Prophet had received hijama cupping and paid the practitioner 1 dinar.
And so Imam Ahmed?
When Imam Muhammad himself got hijama, he paid the practitioner a dinar. It wasn't about the price. It was about making sure he fulfilled the recorded example down to the smallest detail.
That level of meticulous application is just mind-boggling. And this whole philosophy is summed up in a single mantra that the source mentions.
Yes, from Ibn Masud. It's the perfect summary. Reduction in the sunnah is better than increase in the bid'ah.
Okay, you have to say that again. Reduction in the sunnah is better than increase in the bid'ah. Why is doing less, but doing it correctly, better than doing more, but with innovation?
Because the sunnah is the guaranteed path. It has divine approval. Bid'ah, on the other hand, is misleading, potentially destructive. So this mantra establishes that authenticity is more important than volume. It's better to do fewer voluntary acts that are authentic than a mountain of acts you've invented yourself.
A defense of the purity of the framework.
That's it. Exactly.
All right, with that foundation set, let's get into the really practical stuff. The details of daily life that have been forgotten. And we start with purification, specifically the ritual of ghusl, the full ablution. Everyone knows you have to do it. But the sequence, especially embedding the partial ablution, the wudu inside of it, that's often overlooked.
It is. The source specifies a very structured approach. And the key abandoned practice here is that ghusl begins with a wudu, structured exactly like you're getting ready for prayer.
So walk us through that sequence. The details really matter here.
Okay, so the ritual, as narrated by Aisha, starts simply. You wash your hands, then you perform a full wudu face, arms wiping the head, everything you do for prayer.
So the wudu is like the formal prep within the major purification. What's next?
Next is the hair. You put your fingers in water and you work them through the roots of your hair, making sure the scalp is thoroughly wet. After that, you pour 3 handfuls of water directly over your head.
And only then do you wash the rest of your body.
Correct. Only after all that, the hands, the wudu, the hair roots, is water poured over the entire body, starting on the right side.
And the source mentions a small but important variation about the feet.
It does. Maimuna's narration confirms the same basic process, but sometimes the Prophet would delay washing his feet. He'd do the whole ghusl, then step away from where he was standing and wash his feet separately with clean water at the very end.
Why?
It ensures that the feet, which might have been standing in, used or less clean water during the bath, get a final, specific purification.
Incredible detail. Okay, moving from purity to just simple daily etiquette. Footwear. The rules here are surprisingly detailed, starting with this idea of praying in clean shoes. For most of us, shoes are the first thing to come off in a sacred space.
This is definitely a counterintuitive one today, but the sources are clear. The main instruction comes from this incident where the Prophet and his companions were praying in their shoes. In the middle of the prayer, he suddenly took his shoes off.
And everyone else.
They immediately followed him, took theirs off too, without even knowing why.
I can just imagine the silent confusion. What was the reason?
When they finished, he asked them why they'd taken their shoes off. They said, "We saw you do it." He then explained that the angel Jibreel had just told him there was some dirt on his shoes. And from that came the rule. When you come to the mosque, check your shoes. If you see dirt, just wipe them off and then pray in them.
That totally reframes it. The issue isn't the shoe itself, it's the state of the shoe. Purity.
Exactly. And there's also a specific protocol for just putting them on and taking them off.
The right side first, right. This seems to be a theme.
It is. It's about order, giving preference to the right. The instruction is clear. Start with the right foot when you put your shoes on, and start with the left foot when you take them off.
So the right foot is the first in and the last out.
Always. It brings a little bit of mindfulness to an action we do completely on autopilot.
All right, now let's get into what I think is the most compelling example of nuance in the whole text. The paradox of drinking while standing.
Yes.
The prohibition against it is described in extremely strong terms.
It is. The general prohibition is forceful. Anas reported the Prophet forbade it. Qatada even said eating while standing was considered worse.
But the strongest warning came from Abu Huraira.
Much stronger. He reported the Prophet said, "None of you should stand and drink. If anyone did so forgetfully, then he should vomit."
Vomit. I mean, that is a level of disapproval that goes way beyond simple etiquette.
It really does. And the source gives a spiritual reason for that intensity.
Yeah.
There's a story of a man drinking while standing, and the Prophet tells him to vomit. The man asks why, and the Prophet uses this startling analogy.
The one about the cat.
Right. He asks, "Would you be happy if a cat drank from your cup?" The man says no. And the Prophet replies, "For indeed someone more evil than a cat drank along with you." Shaitan.
Wow. So that connects the physical posture of standing while drinking directly to a spiritual vulnerability. You're letting the devil in.
It frames the act as opening yourself to spiritual corruption. Oh, and this is the brilliant challenge the text handles. Then there's the proof of permission.
How do you reconcile those two things? Something so vehemently warned against, yet still permissible.
The permission comes from totally impeccable sources. Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law, was seen drinking while standing, and he said explicitly, "I saw the Prophet doing, as you have seen me doing now." Aisha also confirmed she saw him drink both standing and sitting.
So the big analytic takeaway here is that the prohibition is about a preferred state, not an absolute ban.
Exactly. The strong warnings tell you that sitting is the ideal. It's the sunnah. It's healthier, more mindful, spiritually safer. But the Prophet's own actions show that if you must drink while standing, it's not a sin. It's just not the best way.
A perfect example of nuance. And speaking of preferred conduct, there are also details about how to drink.
2 subtle ones, often forgotten. First, don't breathe into the cup. You take your breath outside the vessel.
That's just good hygiene, really.
It is. And second, drink in 3 breaths or 3 sips. The Prophet said it was more healthy and satisfying. It encourages a slower, more appreciative way of drinking.
Let's shift to social etiquette. The simple act of greeting someone.
The sources elevate this from common courtesy to a pillar of the faith. A man asked the Prophet what the best act in Islam was. The answer was 2 things, feeding the poor and greeting everyone.
everyone.
Whether who you know or who you do not know.
Greeting a stranger, it just instantly breaks down social barriers, doesn't it? Turns a random encounter into a communal one.
It does. It's a quick, effortless way to spread peace universally, not just among your friends.
And finally, in this section, a beautifully human practice, the one about domestic life.
Ah, yes. This one is so powerful. It shows this profound balance between spiritual duty and family responsibility.
What does it say?
Someone asked Aisha, the prophet's wife, what he used to do at home. And she replied that he used to keep himself busy serving his family, and when it was a time for prayer, he would go out to pray.
So he was actively involved in chores.
Absolutely. Helping with repairs, cleaning, whatever was needed, right up until the moment of the call to prayer. It completely shatters the idea that a spiritual leader is somehow above daily household work.
It makes service to family a part of the spiritual example itself.
And critical part.
All right, let's move into the heart of ritual life now, prayer. The sources get into some incredible detail here, starting with a physical object that's often forgotten in modern practice. The sutra, the prayer barrier.
Yes, the sutra. This is a critical and widely abandoned sunnah. It's the necessity of placing a barrier, a wall, a pillar, even just a staff or a spear called an anza in front of you while you pray.
Why is it so crucial? It seems like such a minor detail.
Well, it mainly designates your sacred space for prayer. It protects your concentration. It's a line of defense, both physically and, as we'll see, spiritually.
Which brings us to this really extreme instruction about defending the sutra.
This is where you see its spiritual importance. You're instructed to push away anyone who tries to pass between you and your barrier.
Push them. Even use force.
Yeah.
During prayer.
Yes. The instruction comes from a narration by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. A young man tried to walk in front of him while he was praying, and Abu Sa'id pushed him. The man tried again. Abu Sa'id cited the Prophet's teaching. If they insist, use force, for he is nothing but a shaitan.
So the person crossing in front of you isn't just rude, they're seen as a manifestation of a spiritual intrusion.
Precisely. The act of defending your prayer space is a defense against a spiritual disruption. It shows how important concentration, or khushu, really is.
Another situational prayer mention is the one for returning from a journey.
A beautiful act of gratitude. Ka'b ibn Malik narrated that whenever the Prophet returned from a trip, the very first thing he would do was go to the mosque and pray 2 units, 2 rakas of optional prayer.
Before even going home or greeting people.
Before anything else. It's a way of immediately reconnecting and giving thanks for a safe return.
Speaking of optional prayers, the nawafil, we tend to think of the mosque as the place for all prayer. But the source says something different for these.
This is one of the most strongly emphasized abandoned practices. The clear instruction is to offer your optional, your supererogatory prayers in your house.
Why?
The Prophet's warning was pointed. Offer some of your prayers in your houses and do not make them like graves.
Do not make them like graves. What does that mean?
Well, you don't pray in a grave. The dead can't pray.
Yeah.
So comparing a house without prayer to a grave is a severe warning against letting your home become spiritually dead. Performing these prayers at home keeps the house alive, blessed, vibrant.
So the obligatory prayers are for the community, in the mosque, but the voluntary ones bring light into your home.
That's the idea.
Okay, let's go deeper into these nawafil. Let's start with Salat ad-Duha, the forenoon prayer. The sources link this to a really interesting idea: biological charity.
Yes, Salat ad-Duha, it's highly recommended. And the idea of biological charity is a profound spiritual calculation.
How does it work?
The Prophet taught that in the morning, charity is due on every joint bone of the body. The body has, they say, 360 joints. So every single day, you owe 360 acts of charity.
That sounds impossible. How could anyone do that?
Well, he clarified that every simple act of glorification, saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, counts as charity. Every act of enjoining good is charity. But here's the amazing part.
Okay.
The reward for performing just 2 rak'ah, the duha prayer, is equivalent to fulfilling all 360 of those required daily charities.
Wow. So it's a kind of spiritual leverage, a simple act that covers this huge daily obligation.
An incredible spiritual investment for a few minutes of your time.
And moving into the night, we have Qiyam al-Layl, the night prayer. This has maybe the highest prestige of all voluntary acts.
It's the pinnacle of voluntary worship.
Yeah.
And the key is the timing. The Prophet stated that God descends to the lowest heaven when there remains the final third of the night.
The finest
That's the moment of greatest intimacy. God asks, who is praying to me that I may answer? Who is asking for something that I may give it?
Wow.
Who's asking for forgiveness that I may forgive? It's an open invitation.
The text also holds up Prophet Dawood's specific prayer schedule as the ideal model for balance.
It does. It's remarkable. He would sleep the first half of the night, pray for 1/3, and then sleep again for the final sixth.
So it's not about staying up all night and exhausting yourself.
Well, no, it's a sustainable practice. It balances deep devotion with the necessary need for rest, which is also part of the Sunnah.
And this private act has a very public communal impact.
It does. When the Prophet first arrived in Medina, his first words link this night prayer to building the new community. He said, "O people, spread peace, feed others, and perform prayers while the people are sleeping, and you will enter paradise with ease."
So it's the combination of private piety and public service.
Exactly. The effort you make when everyone else is sleeping is intrinsically connected to the public good.
There's also a really charming tip in here for married couples trying to do this together.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
The Prophet sought mercy for the man who wakes up at night, prays, and wakes his wife to pray. And if she refuses, he sprinkles water on her face.
And for the wife who does the same for her husband, sprinkling water. It's a gentle, almost playful way to encourage each other.
It is.
Okay, before we leave the night prayers, 2 more things. The Witr prayer and that quick rest before Fajr.
Right. Witr is the concluding prayer. The rule is simple. Make Witr as your last prayer at night. It has to be an odd number of rakat to end the night on a complete odd number.
And the rest before the dawn prayer.
Aisha narrated that after the Prophet prayed the 2 light rakat before the main Fajr prayer, he then would lie on his right side until the final call to prayer was made.
A structured moment of rest.
To ensure maximum energy and focus for the crucial mandatory prayer, it's about optimal physical management for spiritual output.
Let's talk about the Al-Sunan al-Rawatib, those emphasized voluntary prayers that are attached to the 5 daily prayers. These seem to offer the most concrete guaranteed reward.
They do. It's an astonishing guarantee. The Prophet promised that a house will be built in paradise for anyone who regularly prays 12 specific rakats in a day and night.
12. Can you break that down for us?
Of course. It's 4 rakat before the midday Duhr prayer, 2 after Duhr, 2 after the sunset Maghrib prayer, 2 after the night Isha prayer, and 2 before the dawn Fajr prayer.
And of those 12, the 2 before Fajr seem to be in a category all their own.
They are, dramatically so. Aisha said the Prophet never ever neglected them, and he himself said that those 2 voluntary rakat before Fajr are better than this world and all what it contains.
Better than everything in the world. That's a staggering statement.
It is. It really elevates that quick pre-dawn ritual.
Okay, shifting to fasting. The source highlights 2 specific voluntary fasts, a monthly one and an annual one.
Right. The monthly one is simple. Fast any 3 days of the month. The spiritual economy here is amazing. Since a good deed's reward is multiplied by 10, fasting 3 days gives you the reward of fasting 30 days.
A whole month. So you get a year's worth of reward for fasting just 3 days a month.
Exactly. It's achievable, and the reward is immense.
And the annual one.
That's the fast of Ashura, the 10th day of the month of Muharram. It commemorates the day God saved Moses and his people from Pharaoh.
That there's a nuance to it.
There is. To differentiate the practice from Jewish observance of the same day, the Prophet intended to fast the 9th day as well. So the preferred sunnah is to fast both the 9th and 10th, and the reward is the forgiveness of all the sins of the previous year.
Incredible. Okay, finally, let's get into 3 critical, very detailed invocations. Starting with the one for travel, the invocation of writing.
This is a powerful little micro-ritual. It turns the simple act of getting on a bus or into a car into a structured spiritual experience.
So how does it go?
When Ali mounted an animal, he started with Bismillah, then Alhamdulillah. Then he recited a verse from the Quran. Glory be to him who has made this subservient to us, acknowledging God's control.
And then the prayer deepens. It becomes a plea for forgiveness.
It really shifts gears. After that, he says Alhamdulillah 3 times, Allahu Akbar 3 times, and then this deeply humble request. Glory be to you, I have wronged myself, so forgive me, for only you forgive sins.
And the text says God's reaction to this is known.
It is. The Prophet did this, and then he laughed. And he explained, your Lord is pleased with his servant when he says, forgive my sins, for only you forgive sins. It shows how beloved that act of seeking pardon is, especially during these everyday moments.
Another subtle one relates to sounds we just filter out. Barnyard animals, roosters and donkeys.
This is a window into the unseen. The Prophet said that when you hear a rooster crow, you should ask Allah for his grace, for it has seen an angel.
So the rooster's call is a signal of goodness.
It is. And conversely, if you hear the braying of a donkey, seek refuge in Allah, for it has seen a devil.
So these two common sounds become automatic prompts, one to ask for grace, the other to seek protection.
It turns the mundane world into a spiritually active one.
And the last ritual here is about dealing with a very common internal struggle. Satan's whispers, or waswasa, during prayer.
Yes, from the one named Kinzab, whose job is to confuse you in your prayer. The Prophet prescribed a very practical, almost physical remedy for this.
What is it?
Seek refuge in God, and then spit 3 times to your left.
A dry spit, I assume.
Yes, a light, dry spit. It's a targeted physical action against a recognized spiritual entity. The companion who was told this did it, and said the influence was immediately gone. It shows that some spiritual problems require a specific physical act of repulsion.
Let's end this section with the practice of istikhara, the guidance prayer. This is something people usually say for huge life decisions.
Right, like marriage or a new job. But the source says the Prophet taught it to them in all matters as he taught us the surahs of the Quran.
So for anything you're hesitant about.
Anything. It's a mechanism for reducing decision anxiety by handing the outcome over to God.
How does it work?
It's a 2-part process. First, you pray 2 optional rakat. Then you recite this detailed supplication. It starts with formally admitting your limitations. Oh Allah, I ask guidance from your knowledge. You are capable, and I am not. You know, and I do not know.
And then you state your specific need.
You ask God if this matter is good for your faith, your life, and your hereafter to make it easy and blessed. But, and this is key, if He knows it's harmful, you ask Him to turn it away from you and turn you away from it, and to ordain for me whatever is good for me and make me satisfied with it.
It's like a spiritual pros and cons list where you trust the final judgment to a higher wisdom.
Exactly. It's an incredible tool for relinquishing control, which is a massive anxiety reducer.
Let's widen the lens back out now to the community, to travel and some final acts of kindness, starting with this idea of visiting each other for God's sake.
This is given tremendous weight. There's a powerful saying, "My love is obliged for those who love each other for my sake, who visit each other for my sake, and who give to each other generously for my sake."
So just cultivating sincere friendship becomes a direct way to attract divine love.
It confirms that real community bonds are a form of worship.
And what about our connection to the environment, specifically the Prophet's reaction to seeing dark clouds or wind?
His reaction was rooted in a kind of historical fear. When he saw dark clouds, his face would show deep concern. Aisha asked him why, and he explained his fear. What is the guarantee for me that there will be no punishment in it, since some people were punished with a wind?
So his first thought wasn't, oh good, rain. It was fear of judgment.
Exactly, spiritual vigilance. The protocol was, when you see a storm cloud, you stop what you're doing and say, "Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from its evil." Only if it then started to rain did the prayer change to, "Oh Allah, send a beneficial rain."
We mentioned travel before, but there's a micro practice for just going up and down hills.
Yes, constant mindfulness. When traveling, the instruction was to say takbir, Allah is most great, when going up a hill, and tasbih, glory be to Allah, when going down. A constant verbal acknowledgement of God's majesty.
Let's talk about practices for the deceased, starting with visiting graves.
This was initially forbidden, but then the Prophet allowed it, because in visiting them, there is admonition, a reminder.
A necessary reminder of death.
Yes. And the conduct there is specific. Again, it involves shoes.
What's the rule?
The Prophet saw a man walking between the graves in his shoes and commanded him sharply, "Take off your shoes." It establishes that the required reverence is to walk barefoot in that space.
And before we get to the absolute pinnacle of good deeds, there's a powerful statement about the universality of prayer itself.
A tremendous gift. The Prophet said the earth itself has been made a place for prayer. Therefore, any one of my followers can pray wherever the time of a prayer is due.
A huge shift from older traditions where you could only pray in a specific consecrated building.
It is. It globalizes worship. You don't need a special rug or a building. Any pure spot on earth will do. It highlights the profound accessibility of the practice.
Okay, let's end with this ultimate combination. 4 specific, noble acts performed in a single day.
This is the high bar for daily excellence. The Prophet gathered his companions one day and just started asking questions. Who among you is observing a fast today?
And Abu Bakr says, me.
Then, who followed a funeral procession today? Again, Abu Bakr says, me.
2 huge acts of worship and service already. What were the other 2?
Who served food to the needy today? Abu Bakr, it is me. And finally, who visited the sick today? And again, Abu Bakr says, it is me.
To do all four of those things, fasting, a funeral, charity, and visiting the sick in one 24-hour period, that seems almost impossible for a modern schedule.
It requires an incredible level of consciousness and commitment. And the reward. The prophet declared, he must enter paradise who combines in himself all those acts.
It's the perfect model for a comprehensive, virtuous day.
It is.
So our deep dive into all these seemingly minor specific practices, it really reveals a powerful truth, doesn't it? That this rigid adherence to detail isn't about, religious bureaucracy.
Not at all. It's about weaving together a comprehensive, a protected, and a mindful way of life. These practices, from those 2 quick prayers before dawn to the supplication when you hear a rooster, they're designed to turn every single moment into a means of deep, continuous spiritual connection.
It shifts the focus. It's not just about the 5 big pillars. It's about the subtle wisdom you apply to every single action. And it's that constant tension between following the established sunnah and falling into bid'ah innovation.
That principle we talked about, reduction in the sunnah is better than increase in the bid'ah. The real value is in the authenticity of the method, the precision of the blueprint.
It really calls for a spiritual audit of your daily routine. We've uncovered things that have just completely fallen out of common memory.
The strict shoe etiquette in the graveyard, defending your prayer space with a sutra, the incredible reward tied to the duha prayer.
The psychological discipline of the istikhara prayer for even small decisions.
These are the forgotten threads that, when you pick them back up, they strengthen the entire fabric of your daily life.
So this leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener. The document emphasizes that following this detailed path is everything. We've talked about practices for everything from doing chores to how you drink water, so we ask you to reflect. Which forgotten practice, which one subtle, small detail that we've discussed today, if you adopted it, would offer the greatest immediate and lasting impact on your life?
Not just spiritually, but in your physical health, your family connections, your presence in your community.
Which subtle detail will you choose to revive?
It's a challenge, really, to turn this knowledge into action.
It is. We look forward to diving deep with you again next time on The Deep Dive.